I'm going to encourage you to think through what are some important documents for our family that we want to make sure we have, and how are we going to store them safely? How are we going to travel with them safely as we're living this lifestyle?
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family, or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. If this is your first time listening, my name is Marissa, and my family is a full-time traveling family. We are digital nomads, if you will, even though 5 of the 6 of us are not really digital in that sense of making money digitally. But my husband owns a company, and that allows us to travel full-time and see this world, and we're loving it. We've been living this life for, it's safe to say, a little over 3 years, but there was a few month break in the middle where we had to go back to the States to get rid of some stuff. So we were back in the United States, which is our passport country. If you ever hear me talking about your passport country, that is lingo on this show for wherever you are from. So for us, that's the United States of America. And so we went back there, had to get rid of a few things. I think we were there for maybe 3.5 months that year. And then we took back to the road, and it's been full-time ever since. So mostly it's not a lie to say it's been over 3 years. We just had to go back and settle some stuff. As you'll find, as you're beginning this lifestyle, it does take, unless you're just doing a hard break and all those fun things. But yeah, so that's who we are. And we are really enjoying living this life with our 4 kids. And that's been so interesting. If you have kids and you're living this life, please let me know, because finding community that is a family, that's why I started this podcast, because we did a test trip. That's what we call it, a test trip. If you go back to like episode, 2, 3, something like that, way back in the archives there, then I talk about going on a test trip. So that's what our family did, just to test it out, see how the kids like it. All of our kids were older when we started this lifestyle. So we just wanted to see how it would go. And everyone loved it, and we moved forward with it. But if that's you, and if you're living this lifestyle as a family, please reach out to me, because I would just love to talk to you. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to see if there's anything that you want talked about on the podcast. I would love to have you as a guest. If you are a full-time traveling family, just shoot me an email. My email's down there in the show notes. Just shoot me an email and be like, hey, we got 3 kids. We're living this life. We got a kid. We're living this life. Hey, let's talk, because I love that. And so we're currently in Costa Rica. We have been in South and Central America for a very long time. Very, very, very long time. We're getting ready. We're gearing up. I say that, but it's still going to be a few months in this neck of the woods. But we're gearing up to head back over to Europe and use Europe as our kind of home base, if you will, to go into Northern Africa, just go from there. So we're really excited about that. So if you've been wondering what's going on with our family, there's just a little update, if you will. We are here until August. I am currently recording this in April, and so we still have several months here. So if you're in Europe this summer, please send me all the things. If you're there in springtime, guys, I love Europe. Love, love, love Europe. So I'm really excited to get back there. We're all 6 of us are excited to get back there. But we are really enjoying where we are right now. We're in a little suburb right outside of San Jose, Costa Rica, and really liking it, really enjoying it. And I gotta say, I am really glad to be back at the podcast. I have missed you guys. If you go back and you can look and see, there was a nice big break there. It was not intentional, if that makes sense. I didn't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to have a break here, else I would have warned you guys. It's just life, man. Life took over, and we knew that we were coming to Costa Rica for me to do language school. We did not realize how time intensive it would be. And if you've ever learned another language intensely, it's a mental exhaustion like I haven't experienced. It's even different than when my kids came home from the hospital when they were babies and I was just sleep deprived and mental overload. Like, it's another form of tired, this learning another language thing. So thankfully, I think that is over. I've been taking 3 classes a day. I'm now to a point where I'm only going to be taking 1 class a day. And so I'm going to have more, I think, mental energy. I'm going to have more time because I won't have as much homework. I won't be at the school as long. And so I'm really excited to be back at this. I've missed you guys. I have really, truly missed sitting here alone in my room talking to this microphone. I really have. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. I hope that a little piece of you missed the podcast as well. And we got some fun stuff coming up as a family that we're going to be doing. So I'll be able to share some content about Costa Rica, about some other countries, go back into the archives of some of our travels and pull out some stuff from that I just haven't had the time. I've really wanted to share some of this stuff with you guys, just haven't had the time. So I'm really feeling good. And what do you know? Like 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be like, hey guys, sorry, got to put the podcast on hold. But I really hope not. I really hope that we're in a good place right now and moving forward with everything in this way. And, I have plans that it's going to go great. So there's just a little update. I wasn't actually planning on talking about that. It just kind of felt like I should share a little bit of that with you guys. So also, I wanted to take a minute and say thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed to the podcast. And if you're listening, however you're listening to this, it's weird to say if you're listening. Of course you're listening. Duh. That was a weird thing to say, Marissa. As you are listening to this, if you have not hit either the subscribe or the follow or whatever the thing is, whatever the word is that allows you to be a follower of the podcast, please do that. It's not for my benefit. I don't really look at how many people are following or all that kind of stuff, but it does help allow the algorithms to know, oh, this is a show that people are interested in. And so it's going to be more likely to put it on people's For You page or recommended for you or just whatever. And so if you're not already subscribed or following the podcast, please just take literally 2 seconds and click that little button. It's really helpful, I promise. And it's really good for the algorithms. It's not for me. It's not for my ego or anything. It's just to help show all the techie things that this show is active. It has active listeners. People care about it. If you want to leave a review, that's another thing. You totally can. Thank you for that. Love all the reviews. I read all of them. Appreciate them. I take what people say into consideration. And so if you have been listening for a while and you haven't given it a rating or review, go ahead and do that. I'd appreciate it. Again, it's just to show all the computery things that people are here, someone is listening, people care about it. So yeah, all of that out of the way now. Whew. Hey guys, how's it going? I want to talk. I like this show because we go from, let's talk about a location, like in our previous episode of talking about London. Let's talk about deep issues, kind of how we did in the Disaster Diaries. If you haven't listened to the Disaster Diaries series, listen to it. It's good. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back, but it's talking about real life situations. It gets a little heavy at times. But I really think if you are living this lifestyle or if you're considering living this lifestyle, check out Disaster Diaries. It's not there to scare you. It's there to be real. And that's what I want this community to be. And that's one of the things I really like about this community is it is real. So that's what this episode is going to be. So this is just going to be a real episode, as you probably saw in the titles, 5 best documents to bring with you and how to keep them safe. Because when we were living in the United States, Eric and I had this huge, and I mean huge, it was so heavy, fireproof safe. And you might have one too if you're living a rooted life, or maybe you still have one like us. We still have this huge thing. We don't travel with it because it would be, I'm pretty sure, 100% of the luggage weight combined for all 6 of us because this thing is so heavy. But we still have it. It's at Eric's parents' house and we keep documents in it. And we made it a priority. Like, we spent a good amount of money on this waterproof safe, right? Because we knew these are important documents. If these things get destroyed, it is not going to be impossible to get them back, but man, is it going to be a headache. And we don't want to do that to ourselves. One, we're a little bit lazy. That's just the truth. And so the idea of having to get everyone's social security cards, birth certificates, marriage license, these things replaced, oh, that sounded like a pain in the butt. So we invested in a safe that would do its job and keep them safe. If we had a fire in the house, if someone broke into the house, usually they're not going to carry away this huge heavy thing. So let's talk a little bit about the best documents to bring with you and then being responsible with those documents as we're traveling around, okay? First, we're going to talk about the documents. Then I'll give an idea, just one, of how to keep them safe. It's not super complicated. So the first one is birth certificates. And I like to travel with birth certificates for mainly 2 reasons for our family. One, passport renewals. Now, I have been told, please, please. I always get nervous saying stuff like this because I don't want you to be like, well, Marissa said we don't have to travel with. No, don't hear what I'm not saying, okay? I was told by someone at a U.S. embassy that if you have to renew your passport, and for whatever reason you don't have the documents, as long as you can get a copy of them, it probably will be okay because they'll be in the system. So as long as they can see like, okay, so at that point, you're just going to have someone scan it and email it to you or whatever. But it's still kind of a pain in the butt, right? So if you just have the birth certificates for things like passport renewal, super, super easy. You can go print it off, so you can make a copy somewhere. Super convenient. So that's the first one. I like to have birth certificates for passport renewal. The second reason I like to have them is our family has adopted 2 kids. So Eric and I adopted Martin and Stoyanka, and they don't match us in any way. Their skin, their hair, their eyes, no. They obviously look different than Riley and Ryan, who are our 2 biological kids. So we have 2 adopted kids, 2 biological kids. I don't say that because I want you to think like I separate my kids. I'm just telling you, I have 2 and 2. I love them all the same. I view them all the same. And yeah, so I don't say that to like separate. But because of the fact that they do look different, being able to show them, like show a border person or just anything, like, listen, they were adopted from a country. For their privacy, we don't say what country it is. But they were adopted internationally from a different country. And that's why they don't look like it is a little strange that we have 2 kids that do kind of look like us and 2 kids that don't look like us. And so being able to show that we have their actual birth certificates is really helpful. On top of that, for us, having some of the adoption paperwork. Now, if you have not adopted, ignore that. I'm just talking about for me. Like this adoption paperwork is not included in the 5. Okay, this is like a sub thing. If you've adopted and you want to take along the certificate of adoption, I think that's a fine thing to do, to be able to show like, hey, yes, I understand that our family maybe doesn't look like what you expect it to look like, but I promise it's legal. So that's why I really like to carry birth certificates. The next one is Eric and I's marriage certificate. Now, this one, I don't think you would have to carry around. Probably if you took a picture of this and scanned it, you'd be okay. But occasionally, very, very rarely anymore, people do like to see my marriage certificate because my name changed. And so I went from one last name, my maiden name, to now Dingler. And so sometimes people like to see the legal document that made that happen. And for me, it's a marriage certificate. So having the marriage certificate just for me gives me a little just peace of mind. Like, okay, like if someone for whatever reason is asking, why is your birth certificate this? And why is your passport or driver's license this? I can go, oh, because I got married. I didn't just change my name. I did change my name, but there was a legal reason for that name change. And that for me is marriage. And so I don't think you have to have that. I think if you got married and you changed your name and you don't travel around with your marriage certificate, you'd probably be okay. I do think maybe it would be wise to have a picture of it saved in a safe way. And I'll get to that at the end here. But I don't know. Go on that how you will. Marriage certificate, not have it, whatever. It's never been the end of the world for me to not have it because anymore people are getting a little more open about, names change. But it is kind of nice to have it at the same time. The third set of documents I would recommend is any medical documents. And I say this especially for vaccination records. Now, I'm not talking about, we're not going to go into the whole COVID vaccine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your kids, because remember, this is Digital Nomad Family Podcast. I'm talking about your kids' medical vaccine records. If they've gotten the chickenpox vaccine, if they got Hep A, B, C, if they got the Tdap, it's good to have that information in a way that's very easy to access. For some people, they actually have a medical, like a vaccine card, and it's like a piece of cardstock, and you have it with you, and your doctor put all the notes on it and the dates and all the things, and you actually have it physically in your hand. For others of us, it is an online record. Either is fine, just it's important documents to have. And the number one vaccine I would say that is the most important is your kids' tetanus boosters. Because as you're traveling, things happen, right? And maybe you're not in the cleanest of environments. Maybe you're going to go on a trip and you're going to be a little bit more maybe in a remote area. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still want to make sure that you're keeping your kids safe. And knowing when their last tetanus booster is a really nice thing to know. Just recently, actually, Martin, they were up at the park here near our house, and there's a whole slew of kids. They go to an English-speaking youth group here. There's a whole slew of kids. Everyone's at the park, and they're all playing capture the flag. That's great. That's fun. No problem with that. He comes up to me. He has this huge scrape on his hand. And he said, hey, I went to go get the flag. They hid it in that metal box thing over there. And I went to and they had put some rocks up to kind of keep the box closed. And so I was moving the rocks, and then someone came and I had to run away really fast, but I really cut my hand up really good on that metal box. And so then we're all sitting there what do we do, right? And it was me and two other moms. And so we go over, we're looking at the box, we're looking at how much metal is exposed, how much metal probably scraped him, all these things, right? Well, knowing that he is updated on his tetanus booster gives me a huge peace of mind, meaning okay, well, that could have been a bad thing. That it did draw blood. It was not good looking metal that did it. But knowing that he's up to date on his tetanus booster is a huge sigh of relief in my head, because I'm okay, well, at least I know he's safe from that, So having the medical documents in a way that's easy to access, that you can know, hey, my kids are behind on this vaccine. My kids haven't had this in a while. That can be a really good thing, because if I was living a rooted life in the States, my kids would be going to the doctor, and all these things it'd be the same doctor every time. My kids haven't gone to the same doctor in I don't know how long. If they're sick, we just go to a clinic. And so having that information is really nice to have, because we do want to make sure that just because we're traveling, that doesn't let us get away from the responsibilities as parents. And I say that not to like judge anyone. I say that to myself just as much, right? Like I had to seriously like look for his medical records. I had to email the doctor. Like it was not easy. And I'm like, why don't I have this better? So I'm like, Marissa, you need to do a better job at having your kids' medical information in a very easy to access point. So that's number 3. Number 4 is I like to have a copy. And again, I don't think it needs to be the actual paperwork, but to have a scan of our power of attorney, because this is going to just be really helpful. Let's say something happens to Eric. I am power of attorney over Eric. Eric is power of attorney over me. Let's say something awful happens and we are in a hospital here and I'm not able to make medical decisions for myself. Eric being able to show the doctors, hey, this document is legal in the United States. It gives me power to make choices for Marissa when she is unable to. I like having that. And again, I don't think it needs to be the actual one. However, I think if you want to travel with your actual power of attorney, I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We don't travel with our will. Like our will is in the safe at Eric's parents' house. I'm not going to travel with that because I don't want to sound harsh or anything, but if someone has to look at my will, I'm not really going to be worrying about it. Like people, we have, go back and listen to the disaster diaries. Like we have things set up for, God forbid, something happened to Eric and I at the same time. Like our kids know what they would do. Our families know what they would do. Everything is set up. So if the worst happens to Eric and I for some reason, let's say we're out walking around and a car swerves off the road onto the sidewalk and gets us both, our kids, they know what to do. Now, that doesn't take away the trauma of it at all, but they know what to do for the next steps to get themselves into a safe place, and we do all that. Listen to the disaster diaries. Like I said, it's not like a fun, happy series, but it's good. So we don't travel with our will because there's no need to. I don't think. If you want to have your will, go for it. That's fine. I'm not going to judge someone for the documents they have that make them feel comfortable living this lifestyle. That's fine. We don't, and I feel comfortable with that. However, I do like to have a copy of our power of attorney. So then, let's say Eric, something bad happens, I have to get into a hospital or something, or he's unable to make choices for himself. I can at least show the doctors, hey, this was done in the United States. It's a legal document. Yes, we're not in the United States, but I still have the power to make these choices on his behalf. So I like to have that. And then the last one I really like to have, and again, I don't think this needs to be a physical thing, but I do like to have all of our social security numbers. I've never had to show someone the actual social security card. It's always been like typing it in to a document or something. So I don't see the need to travel with them personally, like to have them. However, again, we're going to go back. If that's what makes you feel comfortable, do it. Don't let what I'm saying on this show be like, well, Marissa doesn't travel with social security cards, so we shouldn't. No, if you want to have your actual social security card with the number on it, go for it. Not a big deal. We don't, but this came up actually the other day, and we had to adjust something. So like when I say that I preach to the choir on this show, like I'm talking to me just as much as I'm talking to you. I had to type in my social security number the other day, and for the life of me, I could not remember the middle 2 digits. So I'm sitting there going, no idea. And also, I don't have it with me right now. We don't travel with our social security cards. And at this point, we didn't even have them saved in a way that I could reference it. And I was like, oh shoot. Here's a I don't even know what the word is. Here's a deficiency in our traveling right now. So that's another one I'm going to recommend that you have. If you want to have them physically with you, totally fine. If you just want to have them written in a safe place, then what I would recommend, and this kind of leads me into, so those were the 5 documents: birth certificates, marriage certificate, medical documents, a copy of your power of attorney, and your social security cards. Going back to medical documents really fast, if you want to have any like doctor's reports or anything like that, I think that's fine to have. I got some blood work done at one point and I kept it for a while because then I had to go back and get it done again. And I wanted to be able to have a safe compare. Like I wanted to have that form to be able to compare. And since I go to different doctors, I have to be the one responsible for saying, okay, well, here's the first round of blood work, and now here's the next round of blood work. So this lifestyle definitely does put a lot more responsibility on me to keep track of things like that. And so any medical documents, and this can be from the States and even as you're traveling. So Eric next month he has to go get some blood work done, and we're going to have to keep track of that because then the next time he gets blood work done, depending on how, like what the months are in between, it'll be on us to say, okay, well, here was your previous blood work. Here's what we're seeing now. And then we can talk to the doctor and we can show like the doctor in 5 or 6 months, here was his blood work in May. And now here's his blood work in September. Here's what we're seeing. But those two places will not be the same place. So what do we do with those documents in the meantime so that they don't get lost, they don't get destroyed, they don't get messed up, they don't get accidentally thrown away? What do we do? Well, I have 2 suggestions, okay? The first one is it's a fireproof. I have a link to it in the show notes. It's a fireproof safe bag, and it has a lock on it as well. Now, I am not convinced that this is going to keep anyone from stealing it. Maybe, I don't know. It's not going to hurt. Having this is not going to hurt. Does that make sense? But the thing I really like about it is it's large enough that you can keep all of your important documents together. Because I don't know about you, but there have definitely been times where I'm like, okay, well, I keep my passports over here. I keep these things over here. These are in my purse. Because I haven't had one central place to keep all these important things. And it'll be like, oh, well, so we traveled with Ryan's eyeglass prescription for a while. Because my Spanish was not in a place where I could take him to an eye doctor and have them check out his eyes or anything like that. Now it is. So he's actually going to go to the eye doctor here in a little bit to get a new set of glasses. And I'm going to take his old script, but I'm going to take it mostly just so I can talk to the doctor and say, hey, here's where he was previously. What are we seeing this prescription compared to what you're seeing now? And just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And so I would keep that in one place. I would keep other things in other places. And so this fireproof safe bag allows you to know where everything is. Like, oh, you're getting blood work done? Okay, as soon as we get that report, we're going to put it right in here. Oh, all the passports, they're in here. Oh, that important form that we have to make sure that we have filled out for that visa, it's in here. All of the things go in here because when you know where things are, you just have this sense of peace. Oh, the kids' medical records, they're in this bag. That's my first one. I also do like the fact that it's fireproof. If for whatever reason your house was to catch on fire, hey, there you go. I also like the fact that it keeps everything together. So as you're getting out, if you are able to grab that bag, our important stuff stays right beside my bedside. And so if in an emergency, I can just grab it as I'm running out. But it's all together because of that fireproof bag. And so having that is a really nice thing. It's not big and heavy, so it's not going to add anything to your luggage. But because of that, it's also not going to deter a thief from stealing it. Like if a thief does break into your house and they see that bag, maybe they'll take it, maybe not. I have no idea. I don't know the thief. But it is nice to have. I really like that. So check it out in the show notes. I do think it's only like $12. It's not that much. And I do think it's worth it. It has a lock on it, so your stuff's not going to be falling out. I really do like it a lot. So check that out in the show notes. That's my physical one, okay? My non-physical one for the things like a copy of your power of attorney, social security numbers, I would recommend something like LastPass. Now, I say that, and some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, I heard like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was now, time flies. LastPass had a security breach. And while that's a true statement, and while a lot of people did leave LastPass because of it, I wasn't concerned. My husband is very much in the online world, and he talked to a lot of people as well. And we didn't feel like we needed to move away from LastPass. If you don't want to use LastPass, I get it. There's so many other password holding companies, and I think that's fine. But something like LastPass, and LastPass actually you can add pictures to it. So if you want to take a picture, like a scan of your power of attorney, you can have that in there. And it actually has a place where you can just add social security numbers, and it's its own little item type thing. So I would check out if you want something digitally where you're like, I want to have this really important document that is very, it's a very private type document, like social security numbers. I don't want to physically travel with them, but I just don't want to take a picture and have it in my phone either. Or I don't want to just write a note in my notes app with everyone's social security numbers. Like, no, thank you. Check out something like LastPass, because it's a very secure way to store very important documents. And then you can just save it in there, and then you can search for it. You can find it really fast. I really like it. If I can work it, anyone can work it. So that makes it really nice and easy. So that's my way to recommend saving these important documents, either physically or digitally. Because we as we're traveling, we do want to make sure that we're staying responsible, that we're making the best choices that we can at the moment, and that sometimes we need more information, like I did when Martin was cut. I needed more information than I had just sitting there at the park as to what my next step was. I needed to know, when was your last tetanus booster? I needed to know certain things before I could make the most informed decision. And when we have to go searching all around 3, 4, 5 different places for that information, it can feel really stressful in what's already a stressful situation. So having this kind of stuff ready, I do think is good. And it also just eases your life. You don't have to wonder, where is this? You know where it is. It's in the fireproof bag. It's in LastPass. So I'm going to encourage you to think through, what are some important documents for our family that we want to make sure we have, and how are we going to store them safely? How are we going to travel with them safely as we're living this lifestyle? So I hope that information was good. I hope it kind of got you thinking. That's what I love to do. Again, how I do something is not the way that you should do it. I'm just sharing my experiences as I'm living them and through the mistakes I'm making. I have 2 mistakes just in this one thing that I shared. So, and that's okay. We all make mistakes. That's fine. Give ourselves grace, yeah? So I hope that just encouraged you guys to think about this topic and then figure it out for yourself and for your family and what's going to be the best moving forward for you. So with all of that, I hope that you guys are doing well, and I hope that you continue to travel joyfully.